So here we are. It's October 2024, about 2 weeks into the NHL season, and we are here talking about Pierre-Luc Dubois. Hell yeah, baby, we talk about this guy every few months. Some months we talk about him a lot more than others, but for PLD, ever since his days in the Columbus Blue Jackets and in the Winnipeg Jets and the 1 year that he spent with the LA Kings, and now with where he is at with the Washington Capitals, he's had one of the most up and down, fickle, wishy-washy paths in the NHL. Like, when it comes to guys that are always entering the trade conversation and the questions conversation as to whether or not they're good or not worth their money or anything like that, PLD was a highly controversial figure in the NHL world, especially on social media, for quite a while, because mostly of his desire to get traded from former teams, his work ethic being put into question multiple times, and the overpayments that were given to him by certain NHL GMs. Let's just go over the tail of the tape here. PLD is with Washington now, 26 years old, making $8.5 million a year till the end of 2031. Initially the third overall pick by the Blue Jackets in 2016, he eventually found himself in the Blue Jackets as a 61-point guy. Pretty good for a 20-year-old? Eventually, he got traded to the Winnipeg Jets because, straight up, he just did not like it in Columbus. He just stopped trying, and it was very evident in the famous video clip that's gone around of Pierre-Luc Dubois and his last Columbus Blue Jackets shift, where he doesn't go out there and hustle, he doesn't go out there and chase a puck, he doesn't do anything, he just kind of goes for a skate. It's like you paid the $3 for the admission and you paid the extra $7 for the skating rental, you laced him up, and then you stepped onto the ice for the first time in 3 years and you're just kind of gliding around out there. Pierre-Luc Dubois looked like that, and when it comes to his engagement, the way he was vibing with the Columbus Blue Jackets and how the Blue Jackets fans and media were treating him, how they were looking at him and analyzing his game, the guy needed to get moved quickly, and he eventually got traded over to the Winnipeg Jets, where he had spent the next 2.5 seasons. Now, with Winnipeg, Pierre-Luc Dubois did have a career year, 63 points, 73 games played, plus under a point per game in the playoffs that season. He was pretty good, and even in the World Championships in 2022, he was awesome as an alternate captain for Canada. However, Pierre-Luc Dubois was entering trade conversations once again, because it was made very clear by his representation and those that were accessing the media that he actually just didn't want to stay in Winnipeg. Nothing against the team, he played well with the team, and in fact, I would say the Winnipeg Jets have been one of the better NHL teams the past few years, but Pierre-Luc Dubois just did not like it there. And while it's very fair for him to go out there and express his discontent, hey, I'm not comfortable being here, I don't like this place, so I want to up and away leave, I get traded somewhere else where I want to go to. Okay, that's fair, but is it likable? Definitely not. Not saying that being likable is always the right thing, but for PLD, with all these issues that had already piled up on him during his days in Columbus and even in the QMJHL, it was easy to understand why, all of a sudden, when Pierre-Luc Dubois' apparent trade demands only allowed him to get traded to the Montreal Canadiens, it's easy to understand why this entire saga blew up 2 years ago in the way that it did. We were making Dubois Habs trade update videos every few days because a new insider would come out with a new scoop and we'd be talking about it. Now, you all know the story from here. Pierre-Luc Dubois finally opened up his trade options in the summer of 2023, got traded over to LA, signed an $8.5 million AAV deal, and then had 40 points in 82 games played. The problem was, he was getting played in the third line, he was getting played in the fourth line, he wasn't really getting used, and not only was it his deployment that was getting lessened and worsened, but the way he played was just not good. He was not a good LA King. He was ineffective. He had points, yes, but the best that you expect out of this guy was definitely not there, and he was a huge disappointment, signed on for $8.5 million that the Kings had no choice but to trade him. They did. They sent him to Washington for an overpaid goalie in Darcy Kuemper, and now he's at 2 points in 4 games played. And I know what you might be thinking. wait a minute, PLD is on pace for pretty much the same point production he had last year, and last year he was a really big disappointment. What is going on here with PLD that's making him worth talking about in 2024-2025? Well, you might actually think at first glance that PLD is kind of meh, kind of doing the same thing he's always been doing, slacking off and not really producing. But if you go over to the Washington Capitals subreddit, I wanted to go out there and read this post made by Brady T12 that dives into some of the positives about PLD and his time in Washington. Again, I always say it, like this is the best case scenario. We want to see guys do well. We don't like seeing guys suck. Like PLD kind of did in certain parts of his career. Anyways, this post goes out there and reads this: Dubois and his effort level. It has been fantastic. Dubois didn't show up on the score sheet last night, but he directly influenced the play on both of the first two Caps goals. Goal 1, he hustles to get to the loose puck in the neutral zone that Jack Hughes is clearly favored to end up coming away with. He stays strong on his stick and doesn't let Hughes get possession. As a result, Connor McMichael grabs the puck and is able to make a great pass on a 2-on-1 to help Willie beat Markstrom. Number 2, he hustles to get a loose puck away from two Devils players deep in the offensive zone. He chips it up to the point to get Chychrun to puck, who fires it and gets it tipped once before McMichael slams it into a wide-open net. 2 plays that Dubois doesn't get an assist on, but his hustle is the reason why those goals happened. Having a player of his skill level who is putting in 100% on every shift is absolutely game-changing. The Caps are not on this winning streak without Dubois. He's been the high-impact player in each of our first 4 games to start the year. And that changes things. If PLD just got 2 assists on those plays, which he maybe could, but let's just say if he did, if he got 2 assists, then he's at 4 points in 4 games. All of a sudden, the numbers look a lot better. And a lot of Caps fans are very, very satisfied with what they're seeing out of this guy. I'm happy for PLD. I think handcuffing him to Tom Wilson was a really smart idea. Another reply here says, I totally agree. McMichael is thriving on this line with Wilson and PLD as well, and has really elevated his play to a cool, much more confident winger than in the past. I'm really hopeful that trading Darcy Kempfer for PLD goes down as one of GMBM's best moves. The guy clearly has the talent and size to be a force. And a bunch of the other comments are going out there and agreeing with this, saying, yeah, he's been really good, he's been effective, he's been hustling, the coaching staff has been doing him wonders as well, they're giving him all the tools that he needs to succeed, they're motivating him to do the things that he needs to do to be an effective NHL two-way force, you know, getting the points and being able to create plays even if you're not getting the points, whilst providing some stable defensive hockey as well. Connor McMichael, PLD, and Tom Wilson have been great together. And I think, heading into the next few months here, this will be the litmus test. If Pierre-Luc Dubois is able to stabilize himself as a legit top 6 caliber center in Washington, and he's able to stay, maybe get himself a career year, let's say he gets 65, 70 points. I say that because some of his line mates have been going out there and producing pretty well too. I mean, Tom Wilson is on an absolute tear to start out the year. My gosh. He's been going crazy, Tom Wilson, with the goals. And not to mention McMichael, point per game guy, Lindstrom. Okay, different line, but still, you get what I mean here. The Caps have been doing very well. And Pierre-Luc Dubois, pretty big part of that, despite the fact that he's not producing as much as some of these other guys have. As the season continues, you would hope he gets a little bit more passes that go the right way, and eventually he does get more assists, but ultimately this is the surprising Pierre-Luc Dubois update that I didn't really think we'd ever make about this guy ever since those days of him sucking around in LA and not really doing too well. He's making $8.5 million a year. Hopefully, at some point, he shows off that he's worth it. Is he doing that right now? Or is this just a preview of what is going to be an inevitable, disappointing year as he eventually trails off and fades away again into obscurity? It's a little bit different now with Washington because there isn't Kopitar and Byfield ahead of him in the depth chart, or at least in theory. But either way, this is a much better situation for Pierre-Luc Dubois and a very positive update that I think we should all be paying attention to at the very least. So, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as to how Pierre-Luc Dubois has transitioned from being the LA Kings overpaid scapegoat to the Washington Capitals' biggest surprise of the year. Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.